Hi, hello. Thank you everyone for attending the Project Events and Festivals workshop again. And this presentation is for organizations as individuals. My name is Lucy Hernandez, and I am the current point of contact for Project Events and Festivals for organizations. We also have here also a few other staff members that want to introduce themselves, starting with Tanya.
Yeah, sure. Hi, this is Tanya Myers. I am the project manager for project events and festivals for individuals. So I will put my contact email in the chat. I'll also add Lucy's.
Okay, so then just starting the general presentation. This is our general agenda for both. We always start our presentations with a land acknowledgement. So, recognizing the Naugatuck and the Piscataway people, the first residents of the land that would become the District of Columbia. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contribute to their hopes, dreams, and energy to make the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers and heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We stand on the ancestral lands of the Naugatuck and the Piscataway people. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us together here today. And please join us in uncovering the truths uh, at all, at any and all public events, and to use such truths to guide the legacy of this arts commission. Now, going over a little bit of the commission's mission. So, we were first established in 1968 as an independent agency of the District of Columbia government that evaluates and initiates action on matters relating to the arts and humanities and encourages programs and development of programs that promote progress in the arts and humanities. Okay, so going over a little bit about the PEF program overview. We support going a little bit over about the program. So PEF is used to support for exuding projects that promote arts and humanities activities to a diverse range of communities in DC. PEF encourages small, medium, and large projects that have a citywide impact, as well as those that represent community-based projects that are based on geographic location, common interests, and shared identity. Projects may include concerts, visual art exhibitions, literary readings, and festivals that feature dance, folk art, film, music, theater, and other arts and humanities activities. So going over a little bit about PEF's program goals. So there's three main goals, which is to provide access to high quality arts and humanities experiences for all District of Columbia residents, increase quality of life by supporting a vibrant community identity through the arts and humanities, and to stimulate the creative economy through investments in local artists and arts and humanities organizations. So, going over a little bit about, there have been a few changes with our RFA, which is the request for funding availability. There are three major changes. One of them is we added category definitions, where we will go over this in this presentation, highlighting community and culture, and we have some criteria changes. So going over the grant categories and definitions. So for FY25, the Project Events and Festivals grant included three distinct grant categories: project, events, and festivals. Applicants must select one of the categories that best aligns with the scope, scale, and outcomes of the proposed activity. Applications will be reviewed within category-specific tracks to ensure equitable evaluation. So for a project, we define a project as a time-bound artistic or humanities initiative that produces a specific goal, outcome, or deliverable. Event is a single day or short duration public activity or presentation for DC residents. A festival is a large-scale, multi-component celebration occurring over one or more days with multiple artists, partners, or activities.
Lucy, I just wanted to say, can you put the slideshow up for
Is it
I
not
don't
up?
see no, I don't see the slideshow.
Can anyone else see the slideshow?
You can see
I
it.
can see the slides.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's just me.
What's up?
It might be Zoom because it's on like a different like a tab. It- Zoom upgraded and didn't allow everyone to adjust. Okay. And then going on a little bit about highlighting culture and community. So CEH encourage all applicants to demonstrate their commitment to our community-centered framework of equality, cultural awareness, universal access, and community engagement through the applicant process. So this may include highlighting one of the following, addressing how the project factors in a varying access, engagement, and economic needs of the of DC residents expected to interact with the work, including plans to address fiscal, audio-visual, physical, geographical, educational, and language-based barriers, supplying evidence of community benefit like letters from community-centered stakeholders, work samples that highlight the community's response to the work, providing examples of how the work highlights DC's distinct historical, linguistic, and cultural makeup, or or you can also include describing ways DC's unique communities will be authentically represented, positively impacted, and thoroughly celebrated through the work, along with other relevant considerations. Do you guys have any questions in regards to either the category specific or culture and community? Going over a little bit about like how we go with if there's a question, can you please base it off of what the presentation what I just said in the presentation? Because if you have a question, it might be answered later on in the presentation. If a presentation performance will be presented over 2 to 4 days, is this still an event? If it is, one of the other things that we consider an event is if it's public facing. So not all projects needs to have a physical audience. Some projects are also digital projects. So yes, that would be considered an event. Does anybody have any other questions before we move on? Okay, so now going on about the PEF application review and scoring. So we are going through a category-based review process. So the application will be reviewed within categories, again within category-specific review tracks to prevent inequitable comparisons across the similar activity types. While all applications are evaluated using shared core criteria, project events and festivals will be assessed using tailored criteria appropriate to scale, complexity, and intended outcomes. The reason why we are shifting to category-based review tracks is so that we can prevent apples to oranges scoring. The project application scored the application scored against project outcomes, and events are being judged on engagement and logistics. Festivals are being evaluated on capacity, partnerships, and scale. And then going on to the actual review criteria. So there have been a little bit of changes. We were used to the longer names, especially when it came to arts and humanities, artistic merit. Now the name is just artistic merit. Um, so going off of how we are scoring it. So there are two different criteria. They're both weighed 20%. One of them being content quality and application experience. So the applicant demonstrates a knowledge and skills needed to successfully carry out the proposed project, event, or festival. Another criteria is project team and subject matter expertise. So the proposed activity is planned and implemented by individuals with appropriate subject matter experience relevant to the selected category. Going on to the next criteria, which is capacity and sustainability. There are two different criteria, both weighed 15%. One of them is organizational oversight and financial readiness. So the applicant must demonstrate the ability to responsibly manage grant funds and oversee project operations. The other criteria is project management capacity and staffing. So the applicant demonstrates appropriate planning, staffing, budget alignment, and experience to successfully deliver the proposed project, event, or festival. Going on about access and engagement, there are three criteria. They're all weighed 5%. So the first one being inclusive and diverse project design. So the project, event, or festival reflects inclusive and diverse perspectives through its contents, participants, collaborators, or personnel. The other criteria would be equity, access, and participant engagement. So the project event or festival demonstrate a commitment to equitable access and meaningful participations for all participants. Responsiveness and growth would be the last one for access and engagement, and the applicant must demonstrate responsiveness to community needs and outline plans for ongoing improvement. So and then the last criteria, which is community impact, it is 15%, and the criteria is that the project demonstrates the ability to reach a well-articulated number of district residents and or visitors appropriate to the activity scope of work. I know that was a lot to go over with the criteria. I see one question that says go back one slide. I'm assuming it was capacity and sustainability, if I am correct, Christina. One more. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions when it comes to the scoring criteria? Okay. If we have no other questions, Tanya, it is your, oh, never mind. Question, if we are a budding new organization, is this a good grant for us? That is shadow of a doubt. That is a very vague question. I think that we would have to talk a little bit more as to if this would be a good grant for you. One of the criteria that we have for new organizations is you have to be founded for at least 1 year from the application deadline. So if you meet that qualification and you can complete a project of a festival within the criteria that I just said, then it would be a good grant. But that wouldn't be nice. I would say more of like if you have a conversation, we can actually see if it would be, especially if you have a project in mind. And what do you mean about what about individuals? If you can go off of mute, that would be a little bit more helpful. If you cannot, then you can just type away. Okay, no, that is completely fine. Okay, so if you are a individual and you have a project in mind, I would encourage you to talk to Tanya to see if this is something capable or something that you would consider a good grant for yourself. Okay, and going on to the next slide, Tanya, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Lucy. All right, so we're going to go into, well, first things first, the application deadline is Friday, May 22nd at 5 p.m. In the past, if you're a past applicant or grantee, you know we used to do a much later timeline, maybe around 11, but it is Friday, May 22nd at 5 p.m. So let's get into access, logging into the grant portal. Next slide. All right, so if you come from dcarts.dc.gov, you would go into programs and then down into grants. Next slide. And then from here, we are now using submittable. So you just go to the bottom of the page under general grants resources, where you would see grant application portal and click submittable. Next page, please. And then you would use the link to our grants page and look for FY27 projects, events, or festivals, and then select individual or organization. Next slide. So writing tips. Keep a copy of your scoring criteria nearby when writing and write to the criteria that's asked. Avoid buzzwords or hyperbole. If claims are made in the application, simply back them up with support materials and work samples. A good rule of thumb is to ask someone outside of your organization, or if you're individual, ask someone who maybe isn't that familiar with your work or this particular project, event, or festival, and just ask them to read the narrative responses and give you feedback. Give a complete picture of your organization or you as an artist or a arts practitioner or humanities practitioner and its work. Use accurate data in your application when available and where appropriate. All right, so for all document types, please save and upload them in a PDF file format. So work samples, they must contain the clearest depiction of your best work. All applicants must submit arts and or humanities work samples. Must be no more than 3 years old from the date of submission, so May 22nd. Submitting older work samples may render the application ineligible for funding consideration. Please reference the RFA for full details. Next slide. Support materials. These are documents that strengthen the application and provide additional information that directly relates to the grant request. Support materials do not take the place of work samples. We request that there are up to 3 internally produced items, such as strategic plans or marketing materials, and up to 3 externally produced items, such as reviews or testimonials or letters of support. Again, please reference the RFA for full details. Next slide, please. All right, work sample content. Panelists review within the 4 corners of the application. That means they are not expected to click on outside links or content. A linked website may not be seen by reviewers. Websites, online articles, social media posts can be best if a screenshot, and they can be attached as an image. It's often not as a sufficient work sample. Submit a website only if it's an essential part of your project, event, or festival. Next slide. All right, so some tips we have. Review panelists are required to review each applicant's work samples. However, they are not guaranteed to review work samples beyond the recommended number. So if you are to put 20 work samples, they are going to pick and choose, and we don't require them to view all 20 work samples. Clearly name, label, and or describe your work samples and document so that the panelists can identify what they are reviewing. Give the reviewers the information they need to best understand you and your work sample and your support materials. Include samples of similar projects completed to illustrate the ability to execute this proposed project, event, or festival. Next slide, please. All right, so additional suggestions. The applicant should be able to review and play all of the work samples in the application before submitting. So a good thing is to go through each one of your samples and make sure that they are able to be seen by the panelists. If a sample cannot be played, then panelists will experience the same. Select recent high-quality samples that relate as directly to the application as possible. Adding more than the recommended number of work samples to an application will often weaken it. Carefully chosen work samples, such as pictures, videos, excerpts, etc., tend to make the biggest impact and create the strongest artistic impression. Panelists must be able to assess the skill level of the artist involved in the project work to be created, exhibited, or taught. So audio submissions, audio file has to directly download into the application. Submitting a Vimeo or YouTube link is not acceptable for audio or video content. For best results, edit the audio clip to feature exactly what you want the panelists to review. So something like play from 1 minute and 14 seconds to 1 minute and 25 seconds, something like that. You can use video options for audio files. For audio submissions that visual components, consider submitting as a video clip instead of an audio submission. Next slide. All right, so video submissions. The limit is 430 MB. Highly edited commercial or promotional videos are not recommended work samples. Submit the highest quality video samples you can. Good lighting, stable video, clear images, and clear sound. For video work samples longer than 5 minutes, applicants must indicate the exact time code where viewers should begin watching. Time codes may be placed in the title, the work sample description, or as an additional uploaded document. Viewers will manually navigate to the specified timestamp in the embedded video player. Next slide. So screenshots, screen capture for online content. So there are keyboard shortcuts on PCs and Mac and Chromebooks for taking screenshots. You could save these as a PDF or a JPEG. The Snip and Sketch app are other options for capturing online content. You could download any online reviews, articles, or programs and save those as a PDF as well. Next slide. Oh, okay. So soon we will get into our breakout sessions. We will divide the group into individuals and organizations, but first we'll open it up to just see if there are any specific questions about these slides that I just reviewed.
Okay, yeah. There was a question that said, there was a comment that I see that is asking if it's 10 pages across the three documents or 10 pages per document. It is 10 pages it's technically 10 pages per document, but we would like you to be more selective as to like how those 10 pages look like, just because we don't want the panelists to experience fatigue, especially reviewing the applications. Just to make sure that like what you are submitting is important and also sufficient. It's sufficient and succinct to whatever project event or festival you are planning to apply for. And then there was a question about more about community. What would you like to know more about community accessibility? And then you said that are we looking for family friendly work? We are looking for whatever the project is entails. We do have certain restrictions that are coming up. One of the main ones that I can highlight right now is that you aren't ineligible if you want to do programs with youth. We have a specific grant line or grant program that you can apply for if you so desire, but then also those have restrictions and as well. Is if the location is once a month at the time of location, would it be considered an event? No, a festival. No, it would still be considered an event.
You have three hands raised.
Okay.
Christina?
Okay. Yes.
Hi. Um,
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
hi. Oh, Kristen or Christina? Sorry.
I'm sorry, Christina.
Thank you. I have a question. With the work samples in the application, where it says to load them, it says work samples can be 10 still images or 2 5-minute videos. Is there a possibility of combining video and still image, or do you have to choose precisely one or the other?
no, you can do an arrangement of it, of however you want to provide the work samples or the support material. The only thing that we ask is that you can also review our guides to grants, which basically gives you a little bit more information on the specific type of the specific type of file that you want to submit. Like if it's audio, visual, there are different requirements for that as well.
Wonderful. It's just because the question says one or the other that it got confusing. So how many of the 10 pages do you replace with a video if you want to be kosher here?
Well, there is a limit. I'm not sure what the megabytes are, but as you begin to upload, it's only going to take that number of megabytes. So if your video takes up all that, then you would have just one video.
Okay,
Well,
I'm posting the question as it's asked on the application because I may not be the only one who's confused, so that you guys can take a look at that there and see why it's hard to make a decision on what could replace each other. Thanks, though.
I mean, when we're referring to the work samples, is basically how you would like to represent the work samples. So we just gave examples as to how it is within the limits of what we have. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. It's just an example.
Thank you. Got it.
Okay, and then I see Jill has her hand up, or their hand up, I'm sorry.
Hi. Good to hear from you, Lucy. I just have a question about submittable because I want to be able to like share the application materials with someone else to review it. Is there a way to do that in submittable? To like give someone else a link to access and look at the application so far and to review the narratives and stuff like that, like a co-author?
That is a good question, Jill. I do not know the answer currently,
Okay, I didn't see it the last time that I tried to use the system. I couldn't figure it out if that was a possibility. Okay,
but I will follow up on
I
that one.
appreciate it.
Kristen,
Yes, I had questions about the support material. So it would need to be like one, if you have one like letter of support from someone, and then you have like a um design or curricula for your event, is that sufficient enough, or do you have to have three in total for each?
whatever you want to upload, it doesn't have to be three for each. Um, but whatever you put in your summary as to your events, project, or festival, make sure that you can back it up. So with your support materials, you have some testimonies, maybe a write-up of a past event that you put on, or letters of support.
Okay.
You can absolutely include those all in one PDF.
Okay, for the letter of support, it can be one letter of support that's sufficient, or just kind of like what you said.
Whatever you have, if you have several letters of support, that's fine.
Okay, but one is enough along with some other support materials.
Uh, if it speaks to what you're trying to do,
Okay.
absolutely. If it's just one, I would get two or three more if I could,
Okay.
if possible.
Okay. Okay. I had another question about work samples of archival material. So my project will focus on like those projects for the work sample. Um I attended the wrong meeting, I think, on Thursday, but they told me one way I could do it, and I just wanted to double check here with you all. Um, so with that, would I just explain like how we found what archive we used, our process of locating the material, and that is our work sample? Is that like sufficient enough, or is it, a more sufficient way to do that?
To answer your question, I think that it would benefit for me from talking to a grant manager to review your actual like your draft application just to see how it is. It really depends on your narrative. And then
Okay.
because we're using the support material and the work samples to back up whatever you've written.
Okay.
So if you were applying for an individual, I would highly recommend you talking to Tanya. If you are an organization, please talk to me so that we can help you. Just going off a little bit about that is because our application closes on March 22nd at 5 p.m. Please, by the end of this week, to send us an email so that we are able to review your application. Because if you request for us to review it after, like let's say on Monday, we may or may not have time to.
Okay.
And you said archival, they can only be three years old.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is also like, because we're working with archival specific like photos and newspaper and magazine clippings, and things that would be like in the exhibition. So as far as like when we access those things, it's usually a date on it, but then if you go back again, it'll just be a recent date. Is that an issue, or as long as we're able to, show where we found it and it's been within the 3 years?
As long as it's in 3 years.
As long as you've been archiving, like trying to find the archives, because if you're working with newspaper and archival evidence, um, like that would a little be more backdated, but it's like if you're actively doing the work.
Right.
If you were talking about specifically archival, not archival work, not an archival work sample, if that makes sense.
Oh, wait. Okay, I might. I'm gonna because I think my question is a little bit longer, so I'm gonna make sure to email. Um, okay, because I might be confused now too.
Okay, just shoot us an email.
Okay,
Mhm.
We'll work something out.
okay. Thank you both.
Okay, yeah, and then if there are any more questions, we will break out into two different breakout sessions. One will be individuals, and then one will be organizations. For the breakout room, I created a breakout room called individuals. So every single person who's an individual who has the capability to go on the breakout room, please go to that room. If you do not, if you need a little bit of help, can you please give me a thumbs up and keep it up so that I can transfer you to that room. Organizations, you stay with me. Okay, are there any other organizations lurking about?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, I meant individuals.
Yeah,
Oh
individual.
yes, me too, Kristen.
Yeah,
Okay,
organization for me too.
Robert too.
okay, Robert, Onda Hernandez, Gina. Doo-doo. Okay, are there, okay, Leroy. Oh, okay, Leroy, you can just stay here.
Me, Melissa Witherspoon. Yes.
Oh,
How
okay,
about organization, please?
okay. If your organization, you stay with me. Melissa, are you joining from two different
Yes.
things?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm on my phone. So use the one that has no picture. That's
okay,
to push me.
okay. Just making sure. Okay, now it's just us. Okay, Abba, are you still here?
Yes, I am. Thank
Okay, just making sure. Okay, so thank you so much for your patience. I know that that takes up a little bit of the time. So now we're just going into the general presentation for organizations. So so just going over of the eligibility for organizations. So organizations may apply if they meet the following. You must be incorporated as a nonprofit with a federally designated tax exempt status under Section 501(c)(3 dated at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You must demonstrate that 100% of the project deliverables occur in DC. You must register and comply with the regulatory requirements of the following agencies: DC Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, DCRA, the DC Chief Financial Officer, Office of Tax and Revenue, OTR, DC Department of Employment Services, DOES, DC United States Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS. You also need to be, if you are a current grantee, you need to be in good standing with CAH, have an active board of directors, and you must be headquartered and have a principal office located in the District of Columbia as demonstrated by the address on the organization's official IRS 990. Please note that CAH does not allow post office boxes and the addresses of a board members or volunteers as evidence of the primary business address. So now going over a little bit about the requirements. So organizations awarded in the FY27 General Operating Support Generalist and Service Organizations are prohibited from receiving funding from FY27 project events and festivals. Applicants are prohibited from submitting applications for projects that feature temporary or permanent public art. Applicants are prohibited from submitting applications for projects that provide activities for children or youth. Eligible projects by individuals are projects that work independently of the applicant's affiliated organization. If funded, all applications are required to purchase liability insurance within 30 days of award notification. You must obtain a certificate of citywide clean hands. The proposed planning and implementation must be fully carried out in the District of Columbia. And then we have festival requirements. So if you are planning to apply as an organization and you are planning to apply for the festival, you may apply. Festivals may apply if they meet the following. Anticipated festival numbers must align with the uh, district mandated guidelines for public gatherings. Programming must comprise of a minimum of 6 hours. Programs must be publicly advertised and open to the general public. The festival may not be a block party, fundraiser, or charity event. Funding may be used for project expenses only. And all festival activities must comply with DC permits, policies, and safety requirements. So now going on a little bit about the allowable costs. So this is the things that you can apply for your project. So you can apply for funding for artistic and administrative personnel salaries or wages, artist consultant fees, space rental and fees directly related to the project implementation, travel and transportation directly related to project implementation, material supplies and equipment purchases must be no more than 25% of the award that are directly related to the project implementation. Overhead maintenance and administration not exceeding 30% of the grant. This also includes indirect costs. So now going off about unallowable costs. So what you can't use the grant for. You can't use it for overhead maintenance administration exceeding 35% of the grant award. Again, the equipment, you cannot use it if the equipment purchases over 25% of the grant award. You cannot use it for food and beverages, fundraisers, tuition, scholarships, expenses associated with an organization assuming the role of a fiscal agent of another organization, costs related to fundraisers and special events, debt reduction, expenses unrelated to the execution of the scope of work, operational reserve, temporary or permanent public art projects, activities for youth, regranting, also known as subgranting, funding to universities, foreign governments, or DC government agencies, including DCPS. So now going over a little bit about the required documents for the requirement document uploads for PEF. So we require a balance sheet, certificate of clean hands, certificate of liability insurance, your current organizational budget, your 501c3 letter determination, your IRS Form 990 most recently filed. If your organization does not meet the threshold for the 990, please provide a 990 easy or postcard, and in addition to 1 year's worth of financial statements in lieu of the 990 form. We also require a letter of project site agreement and or site plan. So this is required for any project, event, or festival anticipating a physical audience. If a formal letter is not available, a site plan is acceptable. Just to be aware that this is upon like if you are awarded. We have a question in the application that basically asks for the site plan that we're using it at the point of application. We also require a list of the current board members. Please make sure that if you are including please provide the board roles, responsibilities, home addresses, especially if your board members live in DC, because we will also like to know the ward they reside in, the profit and loss statement, and then going on to the next one, we also need your project budget, the resumes of key personnel, your W-9, your statement of certifications. We need, and then again, your support materials and your work samples. And then going off of the reasons why we asked for the specific financial documents. So the reason these required documents provide important context when it comes to the panel. So for the balance sheet, it provides we the panelists will use the balance sheet to assess financial stability, liquidity, and whether the organization can responsibly manage grant funds. For the profit and loss statement, the panelists use to show the organization's financial stability, diversified revenue, and whether the organization is operating at a surplus or a deficit. The 990 is used to provide verified, standardized financial data. It shows governance practices and program impact, and it's also used to evaluate the credibility and the transparency of your organization. And then lastly, the organizational budget. We use it to show how the grant funds fit in your overall plan and whether the budget is realistic and how the funds will be and how the funds will be allocated across all programs. Then going on a little bit about the grant restrictions for PEF grantees. So organizations that have applied to the FY27 General Operating Support specifically for generalists and service organizations are prohibited from receiving FY27 project event and festival grants. There is only one exception is if you apply for the GOS capacity building, you are able to apply for PEF and receive both awards. If you are applying, if you applied for GOS or the general operating support, please check in with a grant manager about the restrictions or requirements. The scope of work presented in a GOS application also must not be duplicated by a project grant. And then the diagram at the bottom just gives a little bit more information as to like for GOS, if you decide to apply for GOS, you can apply for one project grant and one capacity grant. And then going over about the certificate of clean hands. The certificate of clean hands must be dated no more than 30 days prior to the application deadline. You can apply on mytax.dc.gov. You will download a PDF of your certificate. If you will not be able to obtain a certificate of clean hands by the grant application deadline, please contact a grant manager for assistance. So again, the photo on the left-hand side is how the certificate of clean hands looks like. Again, you go to mytax.dc.gov, you click on the validate a certificate of clean hands, you follow the prompts, you use your notice number and the last four digits of your FIEN number. You follow the prompts until your certificate appears, you right-click and you save your updated certificate as a PDF. And then going on about the statement of certification, this is a document provided by the Commission of Arts and Humanities. You can find the fillable PDF form at dcarts.dc.gov. What we request when you fill out the statement of certification is you put in your organization's name. You check the box for 501c3. You complete your complete address must include the spelled out of Washington, D.C., include the zip code, and all this information must match your W-9 and your address that you put on submittable. And then you must make sure that you include the correct grant program and fiscal year in one of the prompts where it says grant program, and make sure you put FY27 PEF-O. And then we go to the last page of the statement of certification. So you just complete the highlighted areas. Title is optional. As a reminder for the signature, it must be an ink or verified e-signature. It cannot be a script font. Typed in name or a signature-like font will be rejected. The information on this document must match the W-9 and the grant application. And then going on to the certificate of liability insurance. This is more of once you get granted, if you get awarded, we request this within 30 days. which this is the language that we would like in the we specifically asked for the accord form. We would like in the description of operations box should have the following language. The government of the District of Columbia and its officers, employees, agents, and volunteers are named as additionally insured. We ask that your insurer also include or send a written waiver of subrogation against the government of the District of Columbia and its officers, employees, agents, volunteers, contractors, and subcontractors. And that we also need the certificate holder box should have the District of Columbia, the DC Commission of Arts and Humanities, our address, and then attention to whoever your grant manager is when she gets awarded. Just as a note, if you do not have insurance or do not meet the whatever our minimum is, you can also include a quote at the time of application. But if you get awarded, we ask of you to have insurance if you get awarded with whatever the requirements are. And then going off of the IRS form W-9, you must use the March 2024 version. The name should match your name in the CAH grants portal, diffs, and other application documents. You must check the correct box in section 3. Your address must be in the District of Columbia and must match your address in all the other application documents. And then also PO boxes are not accepted. You have to make sure you put in your correct IEN number, and then again, the signature must be ink, manual or verified electronic with date stamped, dated in 2026. No font script will be accepted. You can you save the signed W-9 as a PDF. Again, a fillable PDF copy is available at dcrs.dc.gov. And then just going off a little bit about a little bit more tips that I would like to provide for you. So for the statement of certification, do fill out a new statement of certification for each grant application. You do not reuse an old file from a prior grant application. The statement of certification may or may have not changed, or we try to update it for accuracy to make sure that we're within the grant period. So please just use a new statement for each grant application. Again, e-signatures. Please investigate available tools for your organization, DocuSign, Adobe, and other have free tools. The certificate of insurance. Ask your grant manager for a sample of the accord form that includes the necessary language and placement required by DC. You can send it to your insurance representative to demonstrate exactly what you need. You can also just send it for the quote as of right now. Their certificate of clean hands, your grant manager is required to check your organization's status multiple times throughout the grant year. Please contact the Office of Tax and Revenue if your status comes up as non-compliant. PDFs. Upload documents as PDFs. There are scanning apps. There are notes apps on iPhones that allow you to scan and save PDFs as images. There are multiple free tools, online tools for converting JPEGs and other files to PDFs. Does anybody have questions on this? I know that I know that that was a lot of information at once. I only see one from Jill. Are these slides? Yes, so these slides are available on our website. So if you go to our website and you go to grants and you specifically select for project events and festivals, the presentation is uploaded there. Okay. If anybody does not have any, oh, okay. Yes, Jill.
Yep. Is there any update about like the budget for CAH and like there was like a hearing? Like, is there an updated information on what kind of budget you guys are going to be working with in the future?
We do not know that yet.
Okay.
Officially, we will not know that until the DC Council approves the budget.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then just going off a little bit, like we also try to provide additional support for any grant applicants. We provide live chats. They're very informal. The last day is on Friday. The last day would be this Friday from 1:30 to 2:30 is very informal. If you are within those time, you have a question that you need answered, I will be there available, especially on Friday. You can just hop in, ask your question, and leave. You can also sign up on that on our website. Just a general call out for something that we need here at the CH. We need grant panelists. Just providing a little bit information as to like if you choose to be a grant panelist, they are responsible for the following task. You attend a virtual training or you view a training video. It should be about 60 to 90 minutes of material. You review assigned applications, work samples, and evaluations thoroughly prior to attending a panel meeting. You make objective assessments based on funding policies, grant guidelines, and application evaluation criteria. Decisions should be free of bias and not self-serving. You must attend a day-long virtual panel meeting to review and rescore all assigned applications. CAH maintains a database to help identify and select panelists. Panelist application information is only used for statistical and diversity inclusion purposes and is not shared with any third parties. Inclusion of this database does not guarantee selection for panel service. Selected panelists should have expertise gained through involvement in the arts and humanities. This includes, but not limited to, artists, art administrators, art educators, gallery professionals, curators, and art critics. So there is a time commitment. Those selected to serve on the panel review would have 3 to 4 weeks to review a maximum of 25 to 30 applications. CAH estimates that pre-panel review of applicants takes roughly 20 to 30 hours before the day of the panel. Review panel meetings generally last 4 to 7 hours with breaks and currently take place online via video conference software unless otherwise noted. Panelists are appointed one panel per year for a maximum of 3 consecutive years. So, and then also there is panelists will receive a $250 gift card if you make it all the way to the panel. And then again, I just want to note that the application closes May 22nd, 2026 at 5 p.m., not a second later. Please make sure that you are submitting your application before the 5 o'clock deadline. Please make sure that please make sure that you have all the uploaded material before then, because you will not be the only one against the timeline, so there may or may not be technical issues. Incomplete or late applications or incomplete or late applications that do not follow the instructions and guidelines may be deemed ineligible for review and funding. Prospective applicants should read through the request for applications RFA completely before submitting an application. Applicants must be up to date with reporting requirements for prior CAH grants. If you are not sure of your reporting status, please contact a CAH grant manager. Applications are reviewed and scored by a panel of art professionals, and the award amounts may vary. CAH staff are available to review your PEF application materials for compliance and completion up to 1 week prior to the deadline, which is this Friday. And if you have any questions involving the PEF specifically for your organization, please contact me. That is my email address. These are the current office hours. And that pretty much ends our presentation. Thank you for joining us today. I will answer any other questions that you have, and I will stop the recording if anybody does not have any questions.